Hello, we're going to be talking about technical SEO in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. So, first things first, this is me, Catherine Wattier-Ong. I run an agency called WO Strategies. I actually got on the internet in 1994, and I've lost 3 different sites due to too much traffic. One due to a plan that I created at Environmental Working Group that took the site down for 4 days. Whoops. We still get 1.2 million visitors, up from 300,000. I've helped cancer.gov and a bunch of other federal agencies increase their traffic. And more recently, I've helped National Academy of Science move their journal. We had 150 million backlinks, about 2 million URLs, and we didn't lose any traffic. Okay, so let's do a quick disclaimer. So usually when I train on technical SEO, it takes more than 20 minutes. So this is going to be a very high level overview. If you are interested in a full technical SEO training, I've actually helped people do technical SEO as their job, starting from scratch and knowing nothing. Feel free to check out my online class. So today's agenda, we're going to be talking about how search engines discover URLs, common issues you might encounter, Google penalties, and some other learning resources. So the tools you're going to need to get started: Google Search Console, Screaming Frog, which is paid, but it's the cheapest crawler out there, GT Metrics, Page Speed Insights, the mobile usability tool. I mentioned these in the slides, but I use Ahrefs and SEMrush. I also really love the web development toolbar for Chrome, the redirect path plugin, SEO Minion plugin, all Chrome plugins, and Node.js side by side. So there are 5 steps to ranking. So there's 4 things you need to do perfectly before you can even think about ranking a URL. So Google needs to discover your URL, crawl it, render it if there's JavaScript in place, then put it into the index potentially, and then rank it. So we're going to walk through all those in order. So first up, discovery. So there's 2 parts to discovery. So part A is Googlebot just discovering the URL via a list somewhere, either your XML sitemap, which is like a table of contents of your site, internal links. So you've linked to it internally, perhaps from the homepage or some other page. External links, people linking to you from the outside world in, or an RSS feed, and Bing particularly loves those. Discovery B, Google aggregates all of those URLs it's found into one consolidated list, and then it sorts the URLs in priority order, and it sets a crawl budget for how fast it can crawl the URLs on your site. And then a scheduler directs Googlebot to crawl those URLs in that order under the constraints of your crawl budget. So if you are CNN, where the content's really important and perhaps you've got a clean technical architecture, Googlebot knows it won't take down your site if it crawls a lot of URLs quicker, and its content, it wants to make sure it's in Google search, you have a bigger crawl budget. If you're not as sexy as that, you have a lower one. So let's talk about sitemaps. There's 2 that I love. One is an HTML sitemap that's on your website, and it links to all the URLs on your site. The other one is an XML sitemap. It's in an XML format, but it's basically like a table of contents of the URLs on your site. You create that and then you upload it to Google Search Console. You can also test to make sure it's accurate before you upload it, either by running it through Screaming Frog. You can actually test it inside Google Search Console. It should be living at the root of your domain. It should also be added as a link into robot text. And ultimately, when you're auditing it as a tech SEO, you want to make sure that all of the sitemap URLs in the sitemap are high quality URLs. They load to 200. And so ultimately, if you know you have URLs with traffic and backlinks that are not in the sitemap file, that's perhaps an issue. You can check XML sitemap errors in Google Search Console. Internal links, second thing for discovery. So on enterprise sites, internal links can actually lift URL rankings. Internal links should point to the canonical URL. That is the URL you want indexed, and you have indicated that perhaps with a canonical tag, though that is a hint, not a directive. Google takes into account a lot of other signals, which we'll go over. You should make sure you don't redirect internally. It actually slows everything down. URL structure. So dynamic URLs. The green arrow is what Google and users love. The red, not so much. So avoid the red dynamic URL. The URL should be readable. Ideally have some terms in it that makes some sense. The other reason is that dynamic URLs can create duplicates. So same copy on the page, different URL. So ideally you don't generate these in the first place, but if you're an enterprise level site, you might have to. So don't link to the dynamic ones internally, link to the canonical URL that you want indexed. block crawling of internal search because that creates them. And if you're using UTM tracking from Google Analytics, please, dear God, don't publish those on your website where it can load on your site. That will not only cause chaos from a search perspective, but also completely mess up your Google Analytics. You should check to make sure internal links aren't broken because that just breaks the link equity that's flowing from the most linked to thing on your site, which is usually your homepage, down through the rest of the site. So you can check that with Screaming Frog. You can also check that in Google Search Console. It'll actually sort based on submitted URLs are the ones in your sitemap. So you have submitted URLs that you've also said, never mind, don't index via the robot.txt. Perhaps it's confusing. Perhaps you should fix that. You also want to make sure you use text for navigation because Googlebot crawls with JavaScript disabled, mobile first. So the easiest way to do this one by one is when you have the URL open on your Chrome browser, use the web developer Chrome toolbar, turn off JavaScript, disable it, refresh the page, see if anything loads, see if you can click on things. You can also use tools like the JS side-by-side or Perito to see what JavaScript version of your site looks like compared to the HTML one. On linked page or orphan pages, like this one is just sort of a no-brainer. If you haven't linked to it internally, why should Google think that it's a high quality URL you want indexed? So just make sure you link to all of them internally. The easiest way to figure this out is Screaming Frog has an ability for you to use APIs with Google Search Console and Google Analytics. You turn that on and crawl. Even if you've crawled without it on, you can then turn it on, go back and get the data. But you compare the URLs in those two databases to the crawl. So everything that has gotten traffic and is ranking should be discoverable via your crawl. If not, you've got to troubleshoot some things. Inbound links, ones from external resources in. So the URLs that have more of these are going to be crawled more often. And those pages can transfer that equity from outside that came to that one page through to your website. So if you're going to build internal links, you just want to build them strategically to make sure you're flowing the equity in a way that makes sense. Crawling. So Googlebot is a user too. I actually created a persona for it. You can go ahead and grab it off the bit.ly link. But what I think people are really shocked by, and a client told me this, and it was really kind of eye-opening, is that, folks know that Google is using artificial intelligence and AI in ranking, right? Very sophisticated. But when it comes to crawling, not really. It's like circa 1994 technology. So I think if you have that in your head, a lot of this will start to make more sense. So you want to make sure Googlebot doesn't have any issues crawling your site, because if they do, then that's obviously going to be troublesome for you to get into the index and rank. So the best way to find this is in your log files. They're also hard to get though. That will show every URL that has been requested on your server and what happened when a search engine bot requested it. Really insightful. I found all sorts of crazy stuff in there that needed to get fixed. Second place you can find it. Inside Google Search Console, under settings, there's a crawl stats tab. Great info there that we now have. It's kind of like log files, sort of, that Google's given you. Has a bit of a delay day-wise. Also, you can crawl a Screaming Frog as Googlebot. And so Screaming Frog has issues crawling your site as Googlebot Mobile. Perhaps Googlebot does too. You can check URLs individually to see if they have issues with the URL inspection tool. Okay, so have you blocked crawling? Because ultimately, if you want a URL crawled, you need to make sure it's discoverable via a different link. You need to make sure it's higher priority in the crawl list by making sure the page is updated frequently. It's a high demand topic, and you're not creating a huge lift for Google to actually crawl the URL from technical perspective. There's all sorts of things that can create a low crawl budget on your site. So there are things like, most of the time this is enterprise level stuff, but faceted navigation, session identifiers, hacked pages, infinite crawl loops, low quality stuff, all of that will make your site have a low crawl budget. Now, let me give an example of how this can really impact your bottom line. So I had a client where they had a crawl loop, and we were able to increase the crawl budget because they had a feature where they had a relative link and it did not trigger a 404 status. So instead, it just kept adding folders and folders, very similar to what you're seeing here. Folders, 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 just an absolute crawl trap. So what we did is we prioritized literally just that one fix. And within a month, they had 40,000 more keywords ranking and 1,500 of them ranking on Google page 1. doing nothing but fixing just that. Sometimes this stuff will really matter. Okay, robot text file. So this is the rules for any search engine bot and how you want them to handle your website, looking at various folders and pages or facets and navigation. So it does not stop indexing is the most important part. I think people think it does. But if the URL is linked to from anywhere else on the internet, it can be indexed. It's just that Google won't be able to see its metadata and the text on the page. So you want to use a no index tag if you're actually looking to block something. So setting up your robot text file. So there's a link in this robot text generator that, or link to a robot text generator. So you don't have to know how to actually generate it, just actually like, I want this folder, I want this parameter blocked, and we'll generate a robot text file for you. You can also test it. This is a technicalseo.com's robot text tester tool. And then Google's actually has one inside Google Search Console for you to test your robot TXT before you upload it, because you could block everything from crawling. In fact, I got my start in SEO because the developers blocked Googlebot and the robot text file, and we fell off of Google. So don't do that. So it must be named robot.txt in lowercase. It has to be located at the root URL. You want to make sure you don't block things you don't want to have blocked. You want to make sure that the things that should be included are included. So that's what you're going to be checking when you do a tech audit. You also want to make sure you don't block JavaScript or CSS, because Google has blatantly said it's going to harm indexing of your pages. They need to load that stuff in order to see your content like a user. So page by page, you can see if this is an issue with the URL inspection tool, or you can do a crawl with Screaming Frog and see if it's an issue globally. There are other crawl errors you might encounter. The big one is server errors. So if the search engine bot tries to get to your page and it loads a 500 error, they're actually going to back off crawling your website because they don't want to take your website down just by crawling it. So that's not great. I've audited websites where they're up, but they throw a lot of server errors. In fact, my crawler will start throwing server errors. That's a real problem. So you want to make sure that you address those issues, and also make sure that your server errors are actually throwing a 500, not something else. That's one of those insightful things you can find in the log files. So you're going to check your crawl tools, your log files, and Google Search Console for that information. Oh, this is Google Search Console and what it looks like. 400 errors. There's a variety of ones, but the one we focus on the most is usually the 404 error, which is a broken link. You don't want to do that because that means that the equity of other pages linking to that one URL is not flowing into your website at all. It's just a dead end for Googlebot. So ideally, don't do that. However, every website has 404 errors. People delete stuff all the time. You just want to make sure that you're fixing the ones that are significant and ignore the rest. Frankly, it's a lot of lift to fix. So the ones you want to focus on are, was the URL ranked high or is currently ranked high in organic search? Does it have search traffic in Google Analytics? And do you have a significant number of inbound links to them? You're going to find this in your Screaming Frog data or Google Search Console. This is what it looks like in Google Search Console. And then when you click to get more detail, you'll actually get a URL. And I know we've blurred these out so you can't see what these URLs are, but it will actually show you whether it was in the sitemap and other referring pages that pointed to that URL, which helps you fix it. So the way you fix it is that if the content is moved, you just 301 redirect from old to new. If it's internal, then you fix the link from wherever it was found to the right thing, not the wrong thing, right? If it's external and you can't do the one or two, then maybe you outreach the webmasters and get them to fix their links to stuff that's not broken. Ultimately, though, you'll want to make sure you have a good custom 404 page. It needs to be a helpful message for users. It needs to load a 404 status. I've seen ones that don't. You don't want it indexed. Okay, redirects. I just mentioned 301. That's the one SEOs love. That's the permanent one, so envision it like a tattoo. They're usually set up on the server. Many CMS in the admin panels let you set them up. So WordPress, Drupal. I've linked to some Google guidance on the 301s. Google will actually say 302s are the same as 301s, but honestly, most of the time the equity takes a little bit longer to flow because 302 is called temporary redirect. So there you go. You want the permanent one most of the time. Also, be aware when you use the redirect plugin, if you are ever looking at a site that has HTTP to HTTPS, there are a huge number of clients that did not read the Google guidance. I don't know why. That you need to 301 redirect from HTTP to HTTPS. I've seen a lot of this in the federal space. So they thought they just need to do HSTS and be done. So all of these federal websites, or a large number of them, did not redirect from HTTP to HTTPS. So what you're seeing here in that orange, the 307, that means the user got moved over in the browser and Googlebot complete dead end. Dead end. The homepage was not redirected from old to new. Not great. You want to go back and fix this and actually get a 301 from the old to the new to get all that link equity to the homepage. All of that old stuff moved over to the HTTPS site. Also, you need to make sure when you're 301 redirecting that A to B, they're the same thing. So if you take old content and try to 301 redirect it to new content, but if the content's different, Googlebot will actually see it as a 404. So it's almost a wasted effort. Redirects can also go wrong in all sorts of ways. So I have seen all of these. So you can have a 301 redirect from A to B, but you've also told Googlebot that the canonical of B should be A. So you're telling Google, don't index B, index A. So Google goes, okay, goes to A, and you get a 301 redirect where you move Google over to B. Has no idea which one you want to index because you're absolutely not making it clear. You can also have loops, A to B to C to B. Also chaos, and they have no idea. You'll see these in the redirect path plugin. The last one you want to be aware of is no search engine does over 5 hops. So count the number of redirects and make sure it's well under 5. Pagination. Pagination can cause all sorts of chaos. You see the graphic on the right that depending on how you generate your pagination, it might take forever for Googlebot to crawl deep into your site. So obviously, if you're an enterprise site, there are structures of pagination you could suggest where things will get indexed more. I know Google says they don't use rel previous and rel next anymore. They can understand pagination without it. That's great. But honestly, Bing still uses it and it's required for ADA compliance and screen readers. So I kind of recommend people use it. So keep those in mind with pagination. The other things you want to keep in mind is that you want to make sure there's pagination coding on the page. Make sure there's no unlinked pagination and make sure the pagination doesn't conflict with the canonical. The best practice from Google right now is to make sure that each paginated page has a self-referencing canonical. So the canonical tag says actually reference index page 2. Page 3 says index page 3, basically. So rendering, we've gotten through crawling. Now here's rendering. So this means the browser needs to actually load JavaScript or wait for JavaScript to load for us to see anything, basically. So web pages have 2 states. The first is the initial HTML. That happens first. That's the initial stuff they need to build the page. This is the stuff you can see if you right-click View Page Source. So if you're circa 1994 like me, and you were always looking at the View Page Source to steal stuff you wanted to put on your website, steal the code, you can still do that, but that will only work if you're not using JavaScript. If you're using JavaScript, it's the rendered HTML that usually kicks in. So that's more widely known as the DOM, Document Object Model. It's the initial HTML plus any changes that are being made by JavaScript. So to see that, you actually need to open the browser's development tools and click on the console tab. You can also do a variety of things. You can, on a singular page, use the web developer toolbar, turn off JavaScript, reload, see what happens. You can use the mobile friendly test. You can crawl with Screaming Frog. You can use the Node.js option I mentioned before. Okay, we finally got into indexing. You want to check to make sure there's no indexing issues. So ultimately what you need to do is match up the number that you found in your crawl to the number maybe you know on your CMS. You also want to compare that to the number that have made it into Google Search Console as valid and the number of pages you have in Google Analytics that are getting organic traffic. Ideally, all of those should be the same. That's usually an ideal scenario that I try to get clients toward. You'll certainly find people that are clients that have gotten a high number of indexed URLs, but they're not all particularly getting traffic, especially when you get to URL numbers of this size. Okay, so if you want to check to see a specific index URLs are indexed, you can check individually using the URL inspection tool one by one. If you're on an enterprise site and you want to do it in bulk, you can look at ZipDye, which will do it in a huge amount of bulk. You could also use the Index Now protocol that, the Index API that Google Search Console has rolled out. There, you would need to either Code Python. I think you could turn it on as an API now in Google in Screaming Frog. There's a couple options. But that is only $2K a day. So if you're on a big site, you're still going to have to come up with some strategy for how you're going to check things each day. Oh yeah, and don't use the site colon because it's just not reliable. Okay, so now why would Google not index a URL? So Gary Iles from Google was saying, well, if we have an index, you got to figure out why. And typically it boils down to the quality of the page itself and its parents in the URL hierarchy. So parent to child structure of your website will matter. Also, unique media assets just need their own URL with text on it because Google can't do anything with it unless it's on its own URL. So video, podcasts, images, they all need their own place to live. And image ranking in particular pulls a lot of text from the page to label the image and rank the image. And video, if you have 20 videos on a page, they're not going to rank. They need their own individual page with a transcript or some other text on the page. There are a bunch of factors that negatively impact indexing. So you might be confusing the search engine. Oftentimes, I see this all the time, all the time. So there are multiple signals Google uses to figure out which URL you want indexed. We'll go into them in just a second. But if you have a variety of different URLs with the same content, Google's going to get confused about which one you want. And it will honestly select the one it thinks is best. And that might not be the one you want to have selected. So ideally, get obsessed about making sure that you've made it really clear which URL you want in Google search. Now, these are all the varieties of ways that you can create duplicate content that cause this chaos. So your staging server could be indexed. You could have the www or non-www fully loading on the internet. So a whole other copy of your entire website. Same with HTTP and HTTPS. You could have lowercase or uppercase or slashes. Same thing, create a whole extra copy. You could have localized content in the same language, different countries, same language, also duplicate. You could have tag and category pages. People could steal your content. All of that stuff will cause chaos. And that's where Google created this canonical tag. However, the canonical tag is just a hint. So you see the chaos, you want to fix it. Honestly, fixing it depends on the scenario. So you could redirect 301 from 1 to 2. Kind of depends if that would work well for your particular scenario. You can use a canonical tag, but I would recommend you also fix internal links because that's one of the signals Google looks at, not just the tag. Tag's a hint. You could block crawling. You could do a whole variety of other stuff, especially if you're international. So the canonical, just to review, it's the page you love that you want indexed. And ultimately, every page should have a self-referencing canonical. Page A, I want page A indexed. I have put the canonical for Google to index page A. Now, Google recently shared the 3 different things it really looks at to figure out the canonical for you. The first one is it figures out who is the owner because it wants you as the publisher of the content to get the credit, not somebody who scraped it. The second thing it looks at is speed, usability, and HTTPS. The third thing, if you still can't figure it out, the third thing it looks at is SEO signals, 301s, canonicals, sitemaps, it's the internal links there. And it will pick the nicer looking URL as the canonical. So as you can tell, there's all sorts of chaos that could happen here around making sure Google picks the URL that you love and putting it in search. So if canonicals are not configured directly, if the signals are conflicting, Google will ignore your canonical flat out. So this is what it looks like when you use the URL inspection tool to try to figure out, or I'm sorry, this is in Google Search Console. This is a report for where Google chose a different canonical. And I know we've blurred the URLs, but you can kind of see down below that there was a user selected canonical, one that the webmaster wanted. And Google said, yeah, that's great. I'm going to pick this other one. And this can cause all sorts of challenges if you're trying to create a ranking plan for the URLs that you love. So also keep in mind, if you are going to be using the robot text file to maybe block some of these duplicate items, that will not block indexing. You should be using either password protection for a whole, like your staging server should be password protected, or you should use a no index tag or directive to tell Googlebot, do not index this. All right, let's talk about content issues. So thin content, this is one of the penalties. This is from the Panda algorithm, which is forever ago. Looking at thin, low quality, duplicate, similar content. All of that is low quality stuff. And if there's a high proportion of that, then your site does not do well ranking. So if you notice it in the audit, you want to fix it, You either need to literally just fix the content, create deeper content that deserves to rank based on what's currently ranking, or you can no index or 404 the thin content, or you could do a 410, which is a gone status. Video. So if you want to check video because the site has got video, those could appear thin content if there's no text. It's just the video, no text. So you need to make sure there's landing pages with actual copy. Maybe there's a transcript of the video. You can also upload a video XML sitemap if you're not using YouTube embeds. I have a full video SEO guide on my website. Ranking. So Google is mobile first, and so there are mobile requirements for websites. You need to be discoverable via the mobile viewport. You have to look at it, which, by the way, you can do when you right-click inspect in Chrome. You can actually pivot it to a mobile phone view, so you can look at it. It needs to load fast, be clickable with a thumb. You shouldn't have to zoom on anything or scroll. Oh, sorry, pinch or zoom. Don't block things to load the resources, and make sure videos play on mobile. You check mobile usability inside Google Search Console. There's an external tool if you don't have access to Google Search Console yet for a client. Don't block content. You should not block everything that can be viewable with a big old pop-up. That's actually going to reduce your ranking for sure and your indexing. Page speed is also a factor, has been for a year or so. Also, 1 in 4 Americans has a disability. So Web Core Vitals was sort of built for that, to be honest. The other thing about page speed is that it's a tie-breaking factor. So it's if everything else is equal and you're the slow one, you will get dumped from search. So keep in mind, it's sort of that way. And you should be improving your page speed for many reasons, not just because it's a ranking factor, because frankly, customers bail on you if you're too slow. You get higher conversions if you're faster. So there you go. There's all sorts of reasons to improve page speed. There's a variety of tools that you can use to evaluate page speed. I have used Chrome Lighthouse, mind you, that's lab data. You can also you can create a Web Core Vitals report into Google Search Console. We do that for some of our clients in Google Tag Manager. So it gets imported directly into GA. So much more actionable data because it's your actual users and how fast they are. You can compare a website with the competitors with web page test tool that's sometimes motivational for clients. Anyway, the variety of ways you can check. And most of them also give you tips for how to remediate your page speed issues. All right, let's talk about penalties real quick. So there's a securities and manual penalties tab in Google Search Console. You should obviously check that. However, it's also important to know that some of these algorithms will apply to you, or some of these penalties will apply to you algorithmically and not appear in that tab. Penguin's one of them. So Penguin is I have got crappy links pointing into me, or I've built crappy links from my website out. Either way, you could get penalized by Penguin. And if Google notices that in a aggressive way, that's the term they use, it's kind of vague, and you've noticed that those pages that have got the bad inbound links to them have dropped in ranking or stopped ranking altogether, you could actually have a manual Google penalty against you. To fix that, you need a disavow file, which is painful. You could also check for hacking. I've had clients where they do not have anything in the security manual penalties tab, but they are clearly hacked. So yeah, you see stuff like this. You got to fix that. Make sure that you can see the content above the fold. Otherwise, that's the page layout algorithm that's going to negatively impact you. Don't scrape stuff. Don't hide stuff. Don't stuff stuff. Be a real good internet citizen. You'll be fine. You want to make sure you don't have any severe site issues. I've had clients where I crawl their site and my crawling is a problem, which is a huge problem because any sort of crawl from a search engine like Screaming Frog should not take down a website. So you have to resolve server issues. Sometimes it's a database issue. That was certainly part of our problem at Environmental Working Group. So there's a couple ways to fix that, but you want to make sure you fix it because if Googlebot cannot get your site and always see server issues, it's going to back off. If you see a penalty notice that's confusing, you can go to the Google Webmaster Help Forum, but keep in mind that that forum is run by volunteers. They're not Google employees. They don't know what's going on with your website. They're actually kind of just guessing. They might be good guesses. They could be off the mark. The other suggestion is maybe you can join communities where other SEOs can help you troubleshoot. I'm in the Technical Women SEO group and love that. And that's it for me. I hope you learned something today. And if you want to dive in a little bit deeper, check out my longer training class.